Welcome to the deep dive. So you've shared a really interesting set of sources with us this time.
Yeah, articles, notes, some grammar points.
All sort of circling around understanding Indonesian language and culture, some specific nuances.
That's the plan. We're going to dive into how feelings, quantity, and, well, even food are expressed based only on this material you sent over.
Right. So our mission really is to unpack these sources for you. And it all seems to kick off from this one short conversation snippet in the notes. Someone feels tired. Then there's a question about eating too much.
And then, plot twist, they're actually sad. It's a fascinating little example.
Yeah, a great thread to start pulling on. Okay, so let's start right there with that dialogue. The first feeling mentioned is Layla.
Layla, yeah. Meaning tired. Seems like a straightforward physical thing.
But what's interesting is the immediate next question in the dialogue is about eating terlalu banyak for lunch.
Right. Did you eat too much?
Right.
So straight away, linking tiredness to maybe overeating.
Exactly. And the response is, tidak, saya belum makan sama sekali.
No, I haven't eaten at all. Still about food, but, the complete opposite quantity. 0.
But then it pivots, doesn't it? It's not really about hunger after all. The next line is are you sure you're not hungry?
And that's when we get the reveal. Sebenarnya, saya agak kasih. Actually, I think I'm a bit sad.
Wow. So the tiredness, the not eating, maybe symptoms of something else entirely?
Seems like it, yeah. The initial physical stuff might just be masking the emotional state.
And then the conversation wraps up with, ayo semangat.
Cheer up, yeah.
And another link back to food. Hampir waktunya makan malam. It's almost dinner time.
It's such a short exchange, but it packs a lot in, doesn't it?
It really does.
You've got feelings like Layla, tired, and Sadie, the state of being lapar, hungry. But crucially, these little modifier words start popping up.
Like agak.
Exactly. Agak for a bit and hampir for almost. These aren't just vocabulary. They're about expressing degree, how much, how close.
Yeah, degree. That's a good way to put it. Let's isolate some of those. We saw agak Sadie a bit sad in the dialogue.
Right. And the source material defines agak as a bit, a little, or somewhat. It just softens things.
Takes the intensity down a notch.
Precisely. And the examples back that up. Agak Layla, a little tired. Agak Takut, a little scared. So it works with different feelings and states.
Okay. And then hampir. That was used with time, right? Hampir waktunya makan malam.
Hampir means almost, primarily about time or completion. The source also gives the example, filmnya hampir selesai.
The movie is almost finished. Okay, so it signals you're close, but not quite there yet.
Exactly. Proximity to a point in time or the end of an action.
And what about semangat, the cheer up part? It feels like a direct response to feeling agak sedih.
It definitely functions that way in the dialogue, yeah, as an encouragement.
But there's more to it.
Well, the source also lists semangat as a noun, meaning excitement, enthusiasm, spirit. Like in the example, ia menyampaikan berita baik itu dengan semangat. He announced the good news with enthusiasm.
So it can be both the feeling of enthusiasm and the command to, get some enthusiasm?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
It spans that range from describing an internal state to being an external prompt. Pretty neat. Okay,
so we've got agak and hampir adding nuance, and that leads us nicely into the grammar section you shared, which really digs into expressing quantity more generally.
Right, this is where we get the tools to talk about amounts.
And it connects right back to that first question in the dialogue. Did you eat terlalu banyak? too much.
Exactly. This grammar part lays out the spectrum. The source list panekit, sedikit, terlalu banyak, terlalu sedikit, kurang banyak, and that really important one, sama sekali.
Let's take those one by one. The foundation seems to be banyak.
Banyak means many, much, or plenty. And the really useful thing the source points out, it works for both countable things, like books, and uncountable things, like water.
Oh, interesting. Unlike English, where we have to switch between many and much.
Right. It simplifies that. The examples are minum yang banyak, drink plenty of water. That's uncountable air. And banyak buku di rumah dia, there are many books in her house. That's countable buku. Same word, banyak.
Okay, that's handy. So the opposite is sedikit.
Sedikit, yeah, means a little, a bit, not much or not many. Kind of the inverse of banyak.
The example.
Sedikit yang tahu tentang ini. Literally, a little knows about this, but meaning not many people know about this.
Got it. Few people. Okay, now building on banyak, we get terlalu banyak, the one from the dialogue.
Yeah, the key here is terlalu, meaning too or overly. So terlalu banyak is straightforwardly too much or too many.
Like the examples, terlalu banyak orang, too many people, or dia memasak terlalu banyak, she cooked too much.
Exactly. And the source also mentions the flip side, terlalu sedikit, too little or too few.
Makes sense. But then there's terlalu, and that looks related.
It is related to terlalu, but the notes specify terlalu is different. It's not about quantity of stuff. It's used to describe a person's character or actions as being too much, in a bad way, unreasonable, outrageous, over the top.
Ah, I see. So very specific to negative behavior.
Yeah, a distinct usage.
Okay. How about kurang banyak? Translating that literally feels weird. Less many.
Yeah, it does sound odd in English. Kurang means less or lacking or not enough. So kurang banyak essentially means not enough quantity.
So insufficient.
Exactly. The source explains it's used when the amount you have just isn't sufficient for what's needed or expected. The example is perfect. Nasinya kurang banyak.
The amount of rice is not enough.
Right. You needed more rice, but you didn't get it. There's a deficit.
Okay, that clears it up. And finally, circling back to the dialogue again, sama sekali, as in saya belum makan sama sekali.
Sama sekali. This one means at all.
A strong one.
Very. And the source highlights its common pairing with negation, particularly tidak. So sama sekali tidak means not at all. It adds real emphasis.
Like dia sama sekali tidak mengerti. He didn't understand at all.
Exactly. Or our dialogue example, saya belum makan sama sekali. I haven't eaten at all. It's not just I didn't eat. It's I ate absolutely nothing. Zero. Total absence.
That's a really clear breakdown of how to talk about quantity, from just a bit to not at all. Now let's connect all this, the language, the dialogue about eating, to the cultural stuff about food in Indonesia from your sources. This is where it gets really fascinating, I think.
Absolutely. Because that whole exchange, feeling tired, being asked if you ate too much, saying you haven't eaten sama sekali, it just hits differently when you layer on the cultural context.
Okay, so what do the sources tell us? They mentioned 3 main meals, right? Breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Standard enough. And they list common breakfast foods. Fried rice, nasi goreng, yellow turmeric rice, nasi kuning, chicken porridge, bubur ayam. Quite substantial starts to the day.
Yeah, so good.
But here's a detail from the source that kind of jumped out at me. Instant noodles.
Oh.
Apparently were super common for breakfast too. And even as snacks between meals.
Really? Instant noodles for breakfast?
Yeah. The source puts it down to being convenient, practical, and cheap. And get this statistic. Indonesia is the second biggest consumer of instant noodles in the world.
Wow, second globally? That's a lot of noodles.
Tells you something, right? But maybe the most crucial cultural point about food in these notes, the one that absolutely reframes that makan sama sekali line, is about ricey.
Okay, what about rice?
The source states it very clearly. Rice is the staple. To the point where a meal is just not considered a meal if it doesn't include rice.
Wait, really? So even if I ate, I don't know, a huge steak or a big sandwich, if there was no rice, culturally speaking, I haven't actually had a meal.
That's exactly what the source implies. That's the cultural definition it presents. So think back to the dialogue. Thanks, saya makan sama sekali, I haven't eaten at all. Suddenly carries much more weight, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not just I'm peckish, it's more like I haven't consumed the fundamental thing that defines sustenance in this context.
Precisely. It suggests a deeper lack, a failure to meet the cultural baseline for having eaten properly. It adds this whole other layer.
That completely changes how you hear that line. It's not just about physical hunger anymore.
It's about cultural definition, expectation. And the source fills out the picture a bit more, mentioning common sides.
Like sambal, chili sauce.
Yep, sambal.
Yeah.
And kerupuk, those fried crackers.
And it listed different kinds of sambal, like terasi, olek, kikap.
Right, showing there's variety. And it notes this common belief that, well, pretty much everything tastes better with some sambal.
A familiar sentiment in many places.
True. And kerupuk are seen as like the perfect crunchy accompaniment.
And snacks are big too. Es campur, gorengan, siomay.
Yeah, available everywhere, from street carts to food courts. So you've got this culture with defined rice-centric meals as the core. These ubiquitous sides like sambal and kerupuk, and then this constant availability of snacks.
So understanding all of that, the centrality of rice, the common sides, the snack culture, it really enriches that simple opening dialogue, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The talk about being tired, eating terlalu banyak, or sama sekali, feeling agak sedih. It's all happening against this rich backdrop of what food means in that cultural context.
Wow, okay. This has been quite the journey through these sources. We started with just a few lines of dialogue about someone feeling a bit down.
Yeah, seemingly simple, but we pulled on that thread.
And it led us into exploring how Indonesian uses words like agak and hampir for nuance, and the whole range of quantifiers from banyak down to sama sekali.
AMRA breaking down the language tools for expressing how much.
And then, crucially, connecting that language, especially around eating, back to the cultural context provided in the sources. The whole deal with rice, the noodles, the sambal.
Showing how language and culture are just completely intertwined. You can't really understand one without the other, especially with something as fundamental as food.
It's amazing how the source material let us unpack so many layers, vocabulary, grammar, cultural norms, all from that initial conversation.
Yeah, it really demonstrates the depth you can find.
So maybe something for you to think about is your own culture. How does your language talk about food, about being hungry or full or having not eaten?
What does it really mean when someone in your cultural context says they haven't eaten all day or they ate way too much?
Are there similar hidden layers? Does your language reveal specific cultural ideas about what constitutes a proper meal?
Yeah, what unspoken rules or definitions are embedded in those everyday phrases? Something to chew on, perhaps.
Definitely. Until our next deep dive.
Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe.